Good evening, everyone. My name is Jen Ward-Clark of the Caribbean Permaculture Research Institute in Barbados, and I am very pleased to be hosting this special edition of WIRRED's live living room sessions. Walker's Institute for Regenerative Research, Education and Design, and CPRI have been partnering to bring you a live living room session twice weekly for the past few months, amounting to a grand 25 episodes of future-focused conversation with local and international experts. Today's special edition is the first of a special set of live sessions which we will be hosting to mark events and days of recognition which align with our core topics of climate change, building biodiversity, renewable energy, and regenerative agriculture. I really encourage you to rewatch the variety of episodes in our previous series, which are all available on both CPRI and WIRRED's Facebook pages, as well as WIRRED's YouTube channel. It's as easy as one click to subscribe on YouTube to keep up to date on all of our future sessions that we will be hosting throughout the year. Today, we are celebrating World Youth Skills Day, and we look at youth and skills through the lens of the environment. We are joined today by two homegrown youth who have forged careers in agricultural and environmental fields through skills development locally. World Youth Skills Day is celebrated on the 15th of July each year, but this year, in 2020, to quote the official statement made by UNESCO, the observance of World Youth Skills Day will take place in a challenging context. First, the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown measures have led to the worldwide disruption of education and closure of TVET institutions and firms, threatening the continuity of skills development. UNESCO estimates that nearly 3/4 of the world's learners were affected by school closures across education levels by early May. That number has risen now. Young people, aged 15 to 30, were already facing a challenging transition into the labor market before COVID-19. And those people in that sector were 2 to 3 times more likely than adults to be un- or underemployed. The changing world of work, including technical changes and digitization, is offering both challenges and opportunities. Even after the pandemic itself is over and the lockdown measures are lifted, the impact of economic recession will be felt, and the environmental crisis will become ever more tangible. Skills development has a key part to play in fostering the resilience of young people. And as we all know, our future is truly in the hands of our youth. So to pause and recognize this sector of our community today is of utmost importance. We owe this attention to our youth as well as to our environment. Both CPRI and WIRRED actively engage youth through education, internships, and employment. Education is built in as an integral part of what both organizations endeavor to provide across all sectors of the public. But could we do better? Do our youth have enough skills development opportunities available to them? Do we hold agricultural and environmental skills in a high enough regard in our island? The 2020 theme is appropriately set as Skills for a Resilient Youth. And joining us today are two young people who will give us their personal stories to impress upon us all the importance of equipping young people with skills for employment, changing economies, and entrepreneurship. Our first guest, Christina Pooler, is an agricultural enthusiast whose main interest is in developing a sustainable agricultural production system. Her emphasis is on enhancing communities through education and scientific innovation, improving resilience of food security, and delivering and enhancing agricultural-based products, and promoting food, nutrition, and healthy lifestyles. She's undertaken tertiary education at UWI in computer sciences and mathematics, as well as building and civil engineering. Christina then pursued further education in project management, permaculture design certification, and the Youth Agripreneurship Incubator Program. Christina has worked as an intern on a number of projects with a number of ministries in Barbados, including CERMES and Barnufo, CPRI Barbados, and Slow Food Barbados. Ultimately, Christina's experience and her drive for entrepreneurship led her to starting her own farm and project focused on climate-smart agriculture funded by the CPDC, European Union. And she has recently been awarded the inaugural Francis Chandler Memorial Award by the Seroptimus International of Barbados to enhance her agricultural business. Shaquille, who will join us, endeavored to bring his knowledge of food and science together for the benefit of his own personal life and career through his associate degree in natural sciences. And upon moving to university, he achieved a BSc in environmental and natural resource management and agricultural technology, which, to his joy, led him to an intricate and niche group that encompassed science, economics, geography, and sociology. Upon entering the professional world, Shaquille has been able to broaden his network and build his knowledge through undertaking permaculture design certification and partaking as well in the Youth Agripreneurship Incubator Program. Shaquille also undertook training in farming safety practices, food safety management, and not only to become a preventative quality controls individual, a PQCI, but in addition, he became a food safety training and development HACCP food management systems. An integral part of his work thus far has been research and development for new products, as well as bettering the food safety practices for businesses in Barbados. Please join me today in welcoming both Shaquille and Christina to our screen.
Hi,
Welcome,
guys.
everyone.
Hi, good afternoon. Good evening. How are
Hi,
you?
Shaquille.
Thanks for having me.
How is everybody doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
I'm
Great.
doing quite fine.
Perfect. So we've had a few technical challenges thus far, but we are doing okay and we're all here. So as we're all learning what's going on in our new things in life, we've all had challenges to keep our professions abreast of the technology these days.
Yes, please.
I think we will launch. I've given the audience quite a bit of information about both of you, so I think we'll launch straight into our questions. And I'm going to start with Christina for right now. Christina, if you could tell us a bit about your educational path thus far, so the things that you've done to get you to where you are today.
Okay, so I must admit, firstly, agriculture, having a business and having a career in agriculture was nothing that was necessarily on the top of my head or the first thing that I thought of as a young person coming through secondary school and tertiary education. So I started out, as you had mentioned, doing building and civil engineering in college, and then when I moved on to university, I pursued computer science and mathematics, which was pretty difficult, but I got through it. And then after that, with different internships and jobs that I worked in, I pursued additional courses, so dealing with project management, accounting. When I got into agriculture, I pursued the YIT, a few individual courses that were offered by the Ministry of Agriculture, and also something else, the Ministry of Agriculture, and then a few other courses that were available throughout the years. So that's how it's been going so far. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, that's really an interesting way to hear about the path that you've taken. It did not start in agriculture. I think Shaquille will tell us a different story. But what I'm interested to hear about from you next is the projects and employment that that learning has brought you to. So you started out not in agriculture. You sort of segued into it through some additional learning that you sought out. And where has that taken you now? So tell us a bit about the projects, employment, and the work that you're currently doing now.
Okay, so in terms of employment, throughout college and my tertiary education, I've worked in the tourism industry. I've worked in information technology. So straight out of university, I was working as a systems administrator and assisting with managing mobile applications and websites and what's not. Um, I've also done some internships with a few organizations, so like Barnufo. I'm currently doing one with CPRI and Slow Food Barbados. I've worked on projects in agriculture with the Ministry of Labor, the Ministry of Agriculture, Barnufo as mentioned before, and as well Cermis. So
A little bit with everybody.
Like agriculture's I've been destined for agriculture because everything has been leading up to this point. So there's no way I could have gotten away from it, being that I grew up in a family, both on my mother and my father's side, um, working in both the blue and green economy. So on my father's side, it's basically crops and livestock, and on my mother's side, is in the fisheries industry. So it seems like I've definitely been destined to work in agriculture. So I would say agriculture definitely chose me.
Yeah.
Seems like you tried not to throughout your early
Yeah.
schooling years. um, so I think what we'll do now is we'll just segue right into Shaquille. So Shaquille, do you go by Shaquille or do you prefer Shaq?
Shaq, if that makes you comfortable, I'm fine with
Okay,
Shaq.
there you go. As long as everybody feels comfortable. So I'd like to hear from you now. Back to question number one. If you can tell us a bit about your educational path thus far.
So my educational path, I've always been into the sciences, without a doubt. I've never really been interested in accounts and that kind of stuff. So I've always been the person to always sit in a science class, but that'd be physics, biology, chemistry, and enjoy those classes. So after I did my CXCs, I went on to sixth form. I did CAPE studies in sciences, and I stumbled onto environmental science. So that was my first real foot into the world of agriculture through the academia side. My mother, on the other hand, while I was growing up, had pigs and chickens and turkeys all of my young life. So I am accustomed to the livestock. So for me, it was having an academic background to back the the experience that I already had with rearing animals. So I continued. I went to university and I said, you know what, I wanted to be a chemical engineer, which at that point in time sounded like it was going to be so much fun. And I got there and I was with my mother and I was like, I don't think this is what I want to do anymore. So she said, well, pick something. I gotta go back home. So pick something and make a decision. And whatever you do, you have to be happy with it. So I said, okay, cool. I'll go through, I'll browse through, see what else there is to offer, and I will pick a major.
Mhm,
So I decided to continue with the environmental science. So that's where I got into environmental and natural resources management.
mhm,
And I had to pick a second major, and I was like, well, environment, agriculture, those blend well together. I
mhm.
already have some skills in agriculture. Let me put those together and make that my degree. So that is how I stumbled onto the degree I'm in now and what my BSc is in. But outside
Perfect.
of that, I've been working to further professional um, my professional skills. So instead of having the
Mhm,
BSc, I have been able to reach some of the higher levels of food safety training.
mhm.
So
So that
I
leads us a
said that,
bit into the projects and employment and things that you're doing
yes,
currently.
yes.
Perfect. So we'd love to hear about that.
So like Christina's side of mother's side of the family, my mother's side of the family is very much into fisheries. So I have a lot of aunts and cousins who are into the fisheries business, but my dad's side of the family, they're very much the men. They're mechanics and auto electronics and auto electricians and that kind of stuff. And I got into the world of work. I stumbled onto YAIP. At first, I was a teacher actually.
Mhm.
For a little while, I was teaching,
You were
and
teaching at the
then
YAIP
no,
program?
I was teaching actually before I came to YAIP. I was a teacher.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Yes, I taught the sciences at a private school here in Barbados, and then I got into the YAP program because it was like, yeah, teaching is good. I enjoy it. I love teaching, but I feel like there's still a lot that more that I need to learn to help educate the masses. Because we all know going to school, you become an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor, and that's about it. So
Absolutely. There's a
for
very
me,
narrow
yeah,
choice
it's very
that's
narrow.
presented. Hmm.
Yeah. So for me, the YAP program was a way of learning for me and putting what I've learned back into the environment and back into people so that young children and young people can realize that there are loads of other things outside of agriculture being toil and reap. So
Absolutely.
that's really why YAP was so important to me. So I left YAP after that and I got into a fish producing company here in Barbados
Mhm.
and I started working there. I was their production supervisor and I was able to turn fish at the start into value-added products, which has always been something
Excellent.
I've been super interested in, seeing
Mhm.
the way products can turn from one thing to another thing. So
Mhm.
now I've moved. Oh, that was the last 3-4 years of my life, and I've moved on to another company now, but they do a mix of meats. So I am there now in their quality assurance capacity, and I have been able to enjoy that a lot and see how even recently I went on a farm visit and I was giving the farmer some advice and he was like, "Oh, I didn't expect this advice from you." I was like, "But I came to your farm and I'm looking for certain things where there are also things that you can step into and make your farm better." So I think
Mhm.
the YAIP and my world of work have really allowed me to excel in life thus far.
That's excellent. It's lovely to hear.
Yeah,
Um, I really like the story or the narrative that's going on, where both of you sort of started in a slightly different way and changed your mind. I did too. I think a lot of young people do, and I think that that's one of the things that is brought out by the conversation that we're having today in terms of it's a narrow view, like you pointed out, Shaq, that is presented to you
very.
in high school. You can be even if we use the terminology of a doctor. So you can be a doctor, but what kind of a doctor can you be? So you
Yeah.
can be in agriculture, you can be in environmental studies, but there are so many different avenues that you can take. You can be anything from the farmer to the scientist who sits in the lab, and they are both equally as important to the environment and in our agricultural fields.
Yes, they are.
Um, so I guess my next question, and I will perhaps start with Christina on this one because she hasn't talked in a little bit. Christina, my next question is why should youth choose a career in environmental studies or in agriculture? So how could you compel students coming up through school and in university choosing subjects these days to pick something along an agricultural line, or at least to explore it?
Okay, so there are so many reasons why a young person should choose working in agriculture and environmental studies in Barbados or anywhere in the world. There is a diverse um, amount of opportunities that are available, as Shaquille had said, not in just sowing and reaping crops. You can have engineers, you can have people working in agribusiness, so managers, accountants. Opportunities in communication. So you see, during the whole COVID pandemic, there were a lot of farmers and businesses in agriculture using social media to promote their business because obviously they can't go out to their businesses, they can't be out in the market in in any capacity. So they use that as an opportunity to market their business. There are a
Absolutely.
lot of opportunities in economics, scientists. We need a lot of people to do testing and do projects on regenerative agriculture,
Mhm.
other methods that are available for sustainability to improve our blue economy, our green economy. Um, there's a lot of opportunities in technology as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, a lot of opportunities in technology, and there's a lot of growth and improvement that is happening in the agricultural sector. So I would encourage any person, any young person pursuing any type of studies that there's something there for you that you can help contribute to advancing the agricultural sector here in Barbados.
I
Absolutely.
agree wholeheartedly.
Do you have anything to add to that same question, Shaq?
I'm going to piggyback off of what Christina was saying
Mhm.
and say that when I started my degree, I thought, like everyone else, this is going to be me toiling in the sun every single day for the next 3 years of my life to get a degree. And it wasn't. I went in, and what I will say that it's very important, especially when it comes to agriculture. People forget that economics are involved.
Mm.
They forget that electronics are involved, especially when it comes to your hydroponics and your aquaponics
Mhm.
and your you using certain different types of agricultural practices when it comes to watering and maybe even reaping
Mhm.
when it comes to large machinery. So you have engineers in the field, you have economics in the field, you have scientists, of course, in the field who do research in genetics,
Absolutely.
and the seed bank is super important at this point in time as well.
Mhm.
And I think people forget that there's so many things that are connected into this one subject, and there's so many other ways of entering agriculture, but not being a part of the quote unquote toil in the
Mhm.
soil kind of idea. So I would advise any young person to get into it. It's a niche market, especially where we are right now, and there's a lot of need for new minds to innovate agriculture in
Absolutely.
Barbados.
Absolutely, and that's really something that I feel that the youth coming up can bring to agriculture is the innovation. Um, uh, everybody's as generations come through, the new skills that come along with that is really what's needed to advance the agricultural sector and the environmental protection sector as well.
Yeah,
Um, with COVID-19, it's really brought a new light to the problems faced by our environment and in our food security system.
hmm,
So a career in agriculture is not going anywhere.
it will
There
never.
were a lot of careers, sadly, which were either put on pause and some of which have not been turned back on right now. So, with the theme of today is youth and resilience in skills. I haven't quoted that exactly correctly, but resilient youth through skills. Um, with the theme of resilience, choosing a career path that is not going anywhere is a smart choice. And I'm sad I didn't choose it as a young person. I too came into this at a very late stage, far past where I could qualify as youth. So choosing something along that path is going to be a really resilient choice, is what I'm trying to get at. Um, in terms of the opportunities that are offered to youth, we've pointed out that what's the types of opportunities are narrow when they're presented to particularly high school students.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of university, there's a lot more on offer. There's a lot more, if a young person seeks out information, there's a lot more on offer. But my next question leads into what can be done to improve the breadth of skills training that is offered to youth? So, what could we do as educators, as an educational system, even as an island, to improve the offering that is out there and to make sure that youth knows what's available to them?
Hmm.
Let's
Would you like
start
to
with
start, Christina,
Chair.
or would you like me to start?
Christina
You
started
can
the
take it
last
through
time,
this
so let's
time.
go with let's go with that.
I think this is a very in-depth question for me, because what I will commend first of all, I will commend the CXC and CAPE examination systems for actually adding agriculture to their set
Absolutely.
of examinations.
It was not available when
It
I
was
went
not
through.
available when I was at school, and I was at school 10 years ago. Yeah, and in continuation of that, what I will say is when I was in university and I was going around Trinidad, I was asked by UE to be an ambassador for my faculty, which would have been the food and agricultural faculty.
Mhm,
And I was able to talk to a lot of youth and talk to young people about agriculture and about jobs in agriculture and the way that they can change their societies and even their environments or at home or the communities with agriculture on a micro scale.
mhm,
And what I will say is that what a lot of children lack is that they lack the understanding. And they think that white collar jobs, sorry for my white collar even wearing now, white collar jobs are more beneficial for them when it comes to money and when it comes to societal pull.
mhm.
Whereas they see farmers as being lowly or working hard for their money, and the job is lackluster, less important than. And for me, it's about changing or shifting society's way of looking at farmers. Because I've seen a lot of farmers, and I know a lot of farmers, and I've interacted with them, and they're some of the most intelligent people I have met personally,
Absolutely.
and people in the agricultural field. And you can't go to them and tell them something is wrong when they full well know their crop, or their animals. So
Mhm.
for me, it's about changing the ideology
The
and
mindset.
bringing agriculture to the forefront a bit more when it comes to education, especially from the lower level, because children enjoy it when they're young because it's fun. As you get
Yeah.
older, you're like, ugh, okay, I'd rather watch Netflix and chill than go outside and be a part of it. But when it becomes embedded in you from an early age, it's hard to break it. It's the
Mhm.
same way like you're teaching your child manners. You can teach them that there are a lot of other opportunities afforded to them in a lot of different sectors of work, and they would find their way more easily and readily to be a part of the agricultural sector in any means than just telling them be a doctor, lawyer, judge, priest, reverend. So for me, it's just about educating from the younger age and building up. And I'm happy to help with that.
Are you looking for some employment in that manner?
Thanks, guys.
That was your plug there.
That was my plug.
Um, so, Christina, I don't know if you have something to add to that question. What do you think can be done to improve the breadth of skills training that's on offer?
Okay, so I'll just continue from where Shaquille left off. So, um, as he said, I do commend having agriculture being added to the CSC curriculum, but I still think there's more room for improvement when it comes to um, making changes to our educational system. Right
Mhm.
now, it's just tailored to academics.
Mhm,
So we need to add more vocational or integrate more vocational training into our syllabuses, both in the primary and secondary areas for education. We need to add stuff like interpersonal skills for
Mhm.
persons, looking to start their own businesses, persons looking to work in someone's business. So
mhm,
it's things like leadership, teamwork,
Mhm.
motivation, being dependable, those kind of skills I realize that our youth are lacking at this moment that they really need to learn.
Mhm.
Instead of teaching skills in just working for a business, teach them how they can be entrepreneurs, how they can start their own business.
Mhm.
So with the YIP, that was one of the paths that they were taking, one of the end goals that they were looking to
Absolutely.
achieve when we graduated from the program.
Mhm.
Also, as it pertains to education, we also need to educate our teachers. We need to retool our teachers on
Absolutely.
how to include agriculture and other vocational practices into the educational system. We can also have alternative learning programs within our communities to allow people to start businesses, help them get jobs,
Mhm.
and to basically drive the development in their communities. So we can teach the youth skills, we can give them job experience, hands-on skills,
mhm,
have courses or workshops like the YIP or those that CPRA are offering, and also provide volunteer opportunities for youth to
Yes.
learn from other people and from businesses as well.
Mhm.
We can also have mentorship programs, so partnering with businesses, companies, organizations to provide opportunities for the youth as well. So internships, job shadowing, volunteering, as I mentioned, and well, so for example, the Blue Lab with Nicola, they
Yep.
recently had a hackathon in
Yes.
encouraging young persons to be innovative to provide solutions for the fishery sector, for tourism, to protect vulnerable communities, and make transformations due to how COVID had affected us, and things
Mhm.
that can be scalable, that can be used throughout the Caribbean to make improvements in our society, and to promote security, food security, anything along those lines. The As you mentioned earlier, the Sir Optimus Club, they're
Mhm.
putting out different programs, and for example, the Memorial Award to geared towards promoting women in agriculture. There's the CPDC who was promoting climate smart agriculture. So anything, I'm working with the companies and the businesses and organizations can really help make a push to making improvements for the skills and training that would be available for the youth to either work competently in their businesses or to develop or create their own opportunities.
That was great. I mean, that
That
was
was very
a
depth.
really great list that you have just provided us with. I feel like we have
Yes,
so
I've had
much work
a
to
lot of
do.
time to think about it with
Yeah.
my career path.
You have.
Yeah, it's really not hard to point out, especially when you are on the upper end of the youth spectrum, where did I miss out? What could have been better? What would have helped me along my path? That sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And the list that you guys have both created just now, it's as you pointed out, we've come a certain way, a certain distance, but we have a lot of work to do in this realm. So, guys, if you are just joining in now, I'm chatting with Christina Pooler and Shaquille Watkins on this special edition of Wired's live living room sessions to mark World Youth Skills Day 2020. These two are homegrown youth chatting about the valuable skills and careers that they have developed in agricultural and environmental fields. We will be taking live questions from the audience in a few minutes. So if you have any questions for either Christina or Shaquille or just in general, please post your comments in the section below this stream on Facebook or on YouTube, where we are also streaming live. And while you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to click subscribe so that you can keep up to date on all of our sessions as the year progresses. So my next question for you both is regarding the program that you both undertook. So the YAIP program, which would have included a PDC, which is a permaculture design course or permaculture design certificate course. The permaculture design certificate course is something that CPRI offers on an ongoing basis, and it's included in that YAIP program. So that's the I will get this wrong every time. Youth Agripreneurship Incubator Program. There we go. It is a very intense program and one which I'm quite fond of, to be honest. It's a well-rounded program. So what I'm interested to hear from you both is a little bit about those programs and the types of things that you would have learned throughout it and the benefits of skilled programs such as those. Anybody? Hands up who wants to go first? No?
I guess Christina's letting me go first again.
There we go.
As it relates to PDC, thank you, Kenton, wherever you are. The permaculture design course was super interesting for me, especially given that I, again, am more so prefer sciences. And what I think Canton and the program brings is an understanding of how to make your environment work for you and not work against your environment.
Absolutely.
What you can change for your environment, and I think that is what's super important. What people try to do with agriculture is that they try to make the land work against what it naturally does. And understanding permaculture, it helps you to understand how the land actually works and what you can do to work with the land for not only your crop development or your development of whatever you're doing, but also how to heal the land while you're doing that. And I think that's why permaculture is so important, and it actually beautifies at the same time. So why not
It's
permaculture?
like a win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win. As it relates to YAP, though, I thoroughly enjoyed the program, and I think the ministry was on to an excellent idea with the program,
Mhm.
because it not only provided us with the nicks and knacks of agriculture, but it allowed us to be a part of every single sector that goes into agriculture,
Mhm.
and what the importances of those are and what they do for the world of agriculture and the agricultural sector in Barbados. And having homegrown lecturers and tutors,
Mhm.
that was important for me, because it was like, okay, we understand the world of agriculture outside of the Caribbean, but what is it like here? What do
Mhm.
we need to get into to be a part of agriculture in Barbados? What do we need to change about the world of agriculture in Barbados? And then how do we, as young people, move forward to benefit Barbados when it comes to food security and food safety? So I think both programs are excellent programs, and I would suggest and recommend them at any point in time for anyone who is interested in either of them. And they were great. I don't know. My experience was great, Christina. I don't know. For you, was it great? I mean, you met me, so it was excellent. And you met Jen, so it was extremely excellent.
Yes, I agree. It was definitely an excellent program. Um, when I first got introduced into the program, it was actually through the PDC course. So the person that was head of the entire program, I actually met through working on another project with Barnufo. So I took the PDC course, which was being offered at the cohort before the one that I enrolled in. So I actually did the PDC twice. So I enjoyed it that much. But with the PDC, it taught me so much about agriculture that I didn't know of. So many regenerative and sustainable practices that I didn't know existed and that I use on my farm today during the YIP course, along with teaching us the regular agricultural practices, how to, germinate seeds, maintain crops. Once not, they also taught us interpersonal skills. They taught us how to write business proposals, how to manage your business. So in terms of accounting, employees, everything that a business person would need to know to manage their business. So it didn't keep us in the mind frame thinking that agriculture is just a hoe and a fart job. It's a business.
Mhm.
So going through that program really grounded me as to where I'm at that where I was at that particular point and where I wanted to be in the future in terms of building my own business in agriculture.
Mhm.
I was lucky enough to be part of a group that visited St. Kitts and Nevis to speak to other young persons who were interested in starting their own business in agriculture and in technology as well. So, along with having the opportunity to learn all of that information and skills, I was able to, go somewhere else in the Caribbean to share the knowledge and information and my experience with other young people who were interested in starting or didn't have an idea of where to start. So being
Mhm.
able to share our stories of where we were at that particular point and the knowledge we have gained definitely helped other youth who were interested or um, trying to figure out their path. So even up to today, I'm still in contact with some of those young persons, and it's been a joy being able to see how far they've come throughout that process. So as Shaquille said, I would recommend any type of program to attend any type of program like that to, gain knowledge and to make personal and business improvements in your life.
Absolutely. I mean,
100%.
from what I've heard of both of those programs, I myself have taken the PDC a few years ago, but I've not taken the YAIP program. But in my PDC experience, I did have a number of YAIP students who were taking the PDC as part of their program. We were together in that class. And through one of the main ethos of CPRI is to build community. So grow food, repair land, and build community.
Yeah.
And that is one of the main things that both of those courses does do as well. The cohorts that come out together tend to be extremely close and remain extremely close as friends as they go throughout their life, and bouncing those ideas off of each other, keeping abreast of what everybody's doing, working together. That is one of the best outcomes that anybody could expect from these programs. And it's a really truly a testament to the type of people who attend those courses and to the trainers who facilitate that as well. So
Yeah.
I think that both of those programs are just run very well, with a true getting your feet wet sort of experience. Both courses offer so much information. There is a lot involved in a very short period of time. The PDC is 10 days. The YAIP program is offered over is it 6 weeks or 8 weeks?
6 to 8 weeks, I think,
Right?
if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
1 week for everything,
1 week
it's
for
so
each thing. So you
intensive.
get to
Yeah.
experience so many different opportunities. And as a very young person, so the people that I met in my PDC course were all 15 years old, undertaking the YAIP program, and they were experiencing so many different opportunities
Yeah.
that it would have been a very eye-opening and very much a opportunity to experience so many things and choose your path as you go. One of those really great things. So, does anybody else have any further comments before we go into questions live from our audience? If you're watching now or if you've just joined in, please feel free to post your questions for Christina or Shaquille in the comments below the stream on either Facebook or YouTube. And while you're on YouTube, don't forget to click subscribe. Does anybody have anything further to say before we go into our questions from the audience? Any last comments on that?
No, I've been reading some of the questions. They're quite interesting.
Okay, so we will let our backstage staff, Keisha, pick our first question. It is from Akeem Briggs. How do you think agriculture will evolve in 5 to 10 years or more? That's a very good question. Anybody want to take a stab at that one?
Okay, I guess I can probably start since I
You
haven't
jump
for a while.
first.
There we go.
um, I think that with this whole pandemic and people being home and seeing the importance of having the importance of agriculture and food security, that we will make improvement more sooner than later
Mhm.
because of how it has affected us and how people, see the importance of having locally grown food here. So I see improvements in technology, improvements of having land availability to grow crops, to
Mhm.
have livestock, and people looking more into regenerative agriculture instead of the traditional agricultural practices that are being used, seeing that we're so dependent on external input.
Absolutely. So a silver lining of the pandemic, really.
Oh,
Yeah.
to piggyback off Christina again, I'm sorry, but to add to that, I think what the pandemic has also done is that it's also made people interested in agriculture.
Mhm.
Because there are a lot of people who are growing stuff at home.
Everybody started planting.
Everybody started planting. Like there are people that my mom goes to get her seedlings from. She can't get anything because people
Yeah,
have bought everything. So for me, what COVID has done is that it has raised the idea that, oh, maybe if I have a kitchen garden, then that helps me out a little bit, you
absolutely.
know? But in the next 5 to 10 years, there's so much I can see and I wish could happen with the agricultural sector. Um, Agri processing is becoming such a huge thing in Barbados
Mhm.
when it comes to large companies like Sundale or that there's a local company that makes chips. I love them dearly. I love their products dearly, and I can't remember the name. Bibbies, ha! Bibbies is the name, and they're all local agro processors. And I think what is going to really be the shifting agriculture in Barbados as well is agro processing. Outside of you planting or raising animals, agro processing is become such a huge thing because there's so many people who make homemade soaps and homemade body oils and massage oils, and that's something we would have learned at YAIP, the value added part of agriculture. And I think that is where we're going to see the shift, where people can realize, okay, well, if I grow these things at home, or I can grow these things locally or source them locally, then I can then add back to not only my economy, my country's economy, but I can also boost the need and the want for agriculture in the country. Might that be through product security or food security? So the next 5 years, I can see that definitely happening.
That would be amazing if that
It
would
would be.
be
It
that
would
would be
be.
truly amazing. I do agree with you though. I think it is a high possibility. So we have a few more questions and we have about 15 minutes left. I want to make sure that we get to as many questions from our audience as we can. Our
1 minute
next question
answers.
is our next question is from Andrew Simpson. How does the 2-to-1 currency peg affect local farmers' ability to compete?
I could step into this question for one
You're excited
because
about this one, I can tell.
I today came from a pig farm. um, the 2-to-1 currency isn't the bigger problem. The bigger problem is lack of stock or of the ability to provide for production.
Mhm.
And I say that because I work for a production company and I know that we need the animals to make product, but because Barbadian farmers aren't able to produce 10,000 pigs in a week or 10,000 legs, we might need 10,000 legs or we might need 10,000 bellies for bacon or whatever. That is the bigger problem. So we source pigs here locally. We always buy from farmers here
Mhm.
because we support local and then we go outside. So Andrew Simpson, Mr. Simpson, in the next 6 months, you can contact me via Facebook. My name is Shaquille Watkins on Facebook as well. Um, but you can contact me. We can have a further conversation about this because the currency peg really isn't the huge problem for farmers in Barbados. It is the ability to provide the needs of if you wanted to get into a hotel or into a food production company. Is really what are you going to be able to provide and are you going to be able to meet the requirements to provide for those companies, because we're not going to buy pigs if they're not of a certain weight or a certain size. So those are things that are important when it comes to that. So the 2-to-1 ratio, yes, important,
So
but
I'll pose a follow-up question to what you've been talking about.
yeah,
If it's not the 2-to-1 ratio, but it's the ability to provide in volume, is what you're
yeah,
trying to get at. Then what is the holdback? What is it that is stopping farmers from being able to do that? What do they need? What are the is it skills or is it some sort of other facility?
I think for some farmers, the problem is, and then site visits, what the mills do. For a lot of farmers, usually problems come with record keeping. So I'm going
Okay.
to go ahead and I'm going to check everything because I want to know you're providing me with the best product that I can buy
Hmm.
locally. And I think the problem is a lot of the times is record keeping and the ability to come to market at the weights you want to sell at, because the weight you might want to sell at isn't necessarily the weight that you need to sell at.
Right.
So a lot of farmers are having problems, and with feed as well here locally, local feed being extremely expensive, and then their
Mhm.
prices skyrocketing because they are buying feed so expensive, and the bulk of what pigs need is going to be feed and water. So with those exorbitant prices, they now have problems with that. So those are all factors that affect the way the pig farmer community is working in Barbados.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that it affects most livestock. Anything requiring an input. So there are a lot of inputs required in agriculture, whether it be livestock or crops,
Yeah,
farming of any sort. Inputs are required. Most of those inputs are imported. So the
yeah,
2-to-1 currency peg is what I believe Andrew is getting at with
yeah.
that, being that imported inputs are
Important.
required, but it's the ability to find what you need locally.
Yeah,
Most of the time, what you're going to find locally is going to be probably better for your livestock because it's going to be more organic. So,
yeah,
looking at the resources that we're currently wasting in order to use them to put them back into the land, to use them to feed animals, that sort of stuff.
yeah,
It's just a matter of through permaculture, we're taught to look at things through a different lens. Your
yeah,
problem is usually your solution
yeah.
to a different problem. So it's just a matter of looking at things differently.
Actually, what I will say though is that I've seen a lot of different ways of permaculture with of pig farming, and there should be a start soon locally if people have enough land that they can free range some pigs or something that can put back into the environment, and they can have pigs to mow their lawns and enjoy and enjoy that, and that would also cut down on your input because we
Yeah.
know pigs are omnivorous and they will eat whatever is there.
Mhm. Absolutely. So let's get to our next question from the audience. I know we still do have a few. This one is from Keisha. What do you think can be done to change the perception of agriculture in Barbados and the wider Caribbean? So there is this obvious, your mom doesn't want you to grow up to be a farmer because farming is not as great as being a doctor or a lawyer. So what can we do to change that perception? Christina, do you want to take a stab at this one?
Yeah, I would definitely say starting with the youth, starting with the young ones would, help change the perception in the generations to come. I'm not sure if trying to do it now with the older ones, if it would work because they're basically, seasoned. So if we start with the young minds that are still being trained, still sponges to
Yeah.
soak up information, we can help gradually change the perception of agriculture and teach them all the different sectors that are involved in agriculture to help change the perception. So I do believe that starting with our youth from as little as preschool
Yeah.
would help gradually change the perception in Barbados and in the Caribbean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shaquille? Yeah.
To answer that question, but also just another question that I saw, and that is, what is the influence? What influences agriculture had on you and others around you? And I think what it does to answer this question is when you're in agriculture, people tend to ask you a lot of questions. So people who are interested in a home garden, they'll ask you, "So you think I should grow my lime tree next to my cactus? Does that make sense? Or should I grow my sweet peppers away from my tomatoes?" So what it does is it allows people to ask you questions and you get them honest answers. But also it allows you to then build a community centric idea where you can go and help people in your community to have low farms, have low gardens, or have a community garden dependent on the area you're in and if there's land space available. So the perception of agriculture in Barbados and the wider Caribbean, Miss Farnham, is that, and will always be, well, not that it will always be, I hope, but is that it's hard, it's difficult, and for me, stepping into it, it is one of the most interesting things I have done in my life. I'll tell you the truth about that. It is thought provoking. You have to have great problem solving skills to be an
Absolutely.
agriculturist because there no problem is the same and no problem ever remains the same. So there's so many things that you can change or learn in an experience with crops or with animals or with whatever you try with agriculture. So as Christina was saying, the idea that you should mold young minds because they're like sponges, they taking everything. If you can, as much as you can, educate children about the necessities of agriculture and where their food comes from. And I think that is where the problem also lies because a lot of students or young people don't know where their food comes from. So children would think they buy milk, it comes in a carton, that's it. They don't know you need cows, would need to be reared, then milked, and milk needs to be pasteurized for them to have milk. So there are all these things that you should be able to teach your children to help them understand and change the perspective of agriculture in the Caribbean.
Perfect. So we have a couple of more questions, so we're just going to get to as many as we can. If we can have this one is from Patrick. Can we start a responsible farming brand that really highlights the fact that local farmers are being supported? We need to make it attractive to the next generation. It will take more than one generation to accomplish. This is a question and some statements and a very broad topic here. But
Broad
do you
topic.
think it's possible? Is it something that we can do? How do we make farming attractive to the next generation in a responsible farming brand?
Yeah. Oh, this is a mouthful. I'm thinking, and it should be possible. It is very possible for you to do that, and it should be. I think, like for me, one of the most interesting things for me has always been the pig farmers co-op, where you have multiple pig farmers all in one group, sell all their pigs together. I don't know if they're surely profit though, but I know that they all come together, and their pigs are all, because I accept pigs from them as well. We take pigs from them as well, and I think what is important is we need to learn interpersonal skills, because in order for it to work, people must be able to understand that the need to work with a group, and to understand other people's perspective, and to take constructive criticism, because when you're writing a business plan, it's not every single bank or every single loans officer you're going to go to and they're going to give you a yes right away. There's going to be a fault. So you have to do your research. You have to understand the people you're working with. You have to understand the importance of your brand. So now you're looking to have communications in there. You're looking to have marketing in there. You're looking to have sales in there. You're looking to have a brand manager as a part of this, because you're trying to find a way to connect with the Barbadian community and find a way that is natural for them to understand, because they're not going to look for something that is all the way out there and so international that the Barbadian community will not like or accept it. So what you're looking to do is that you're looking to attract young people,
Mhm.
because that's where you're going to get the majority of brain power at this stage. You're looking for experience as well, and you're looking to be able to mentor and help to build this responsible brand. And when you're building this responsible brand, please include sustainability, regenerative agriculture,
Mhm.
safe and good environmental practices,
That
safe
would make
and
it
good
responsible.
food and safety practices, and a safe working environment for all. So when you're coming up with this brand, there's a lot to incorporate, and that is a long discussion. But those are a few points that I think are very important to what you're saying.
Great. Christina, do you have anything to add to that?
I definitely agree with all the points that Shaquille made. Um, I would add that, having more cooperatives with farmers would
Hmm.
definitely be a benefit to see this come to light,
Mhm.
and also working with the public sector, so with different government entities to help promote responsible farming, and even with how I can't remember his name, but the guy from how good was it?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Howgood.com, Ethan
Using
Soloviev. Yeah.
yes, using those guidelines to support and to promote responsible farming, in promoting it in the supermarkets, in the communities, with businesses, and so on. So,
Absolutely.
using guidelines like that would definitely be a benefit in highlighting local farmers and supporting local farmers on the
Absolutely.
island.
Yeah. And that was a really great interview that we had with Ethan Soloviev from howgood.com. You can rewatch the replay of that if you haven't seen it yet. It's available on our Facebook page and Wired's YouTube channel as well. And Christina, I think that one of the interesting things that could come out of this question here for a responsible farming brand would involve value-added products. So I wonder if you could tell us a bit about your experience with that. So you do run a responsible farm, and you have a number of value. Ooh, Christina may have just left us, but she does have a number of value-added products that she's made available through her farm. Um, Maybe I'll have to answer that one for Christina. Uh,
Right.
so I was hoping she would tell us a little bit
A
about
bit more about her products.
she does do some soaps, some lotions, some handmade products, and she uses the products that she produces on her farm, things that she's growing, and she produces eggs, things like that. So I think that without Christina here to elaborate on that, making use of value-added products. Oh, there you are,
I've had
Christina.
tea bags from Christine as well. So
Hey.
Yes, tea bags, absolutely. I was telling the audience about some of the value-added products that you produce, just in relation to Patrick's last question about making it more new and interesting. So agriculture does not have to be just pig farming or growing tomatoes to sell to a supermarket.
Yeah.
But the realm of value-added products is really something that would be quite interesting to the next generation. So your
is.
experience in that is, as briefly as you can, if you can tell us a bit about the types of products that you produce.
Yes, I've tried so many things. I'm the type of person that likes to try any and everything, especially when it comes to food. Um, Through the YIP, we were taught skills on how to make soaps and lotions, oils, that kind of stuff. So using cucumbers from the farm, different herbs from the farm to include in soaps to add benefits, medicinal benefits to the soap or to lotions, shampoos. Um, trying out how to make tomato sauces, or just recently pickles,
Mm-hmm.
which I never thought was so well for me so easy to make. So that's
Yes.
something that I can offer to my customers. There's doing microgreens, something that any person looking to make some sort of additional income with the correct skills and care for the microgreens could use that as additional income. So there's so many different opportunities for persons in agriculture to add value to their business, to get additional income. So it whether it's trying to learn these skills on your own through trial and error, or if um, some of the organizations like CPRI choose to
Mhm.
offer this type of courses to agriculturalists, it would definitely benefit them in the long run as it pertains to um, trying to figure out what to do with excess crops or
Yes.
excess meat,
Yeah.
where they usually, give away
The
or
things you throw
throw
away.
away.
Access
Right.
me is all me. Call me. We can figure something out together.
Absolutely, there's a tremendous amount of possibilities,
Yeah, so
and
having
CPRI
value
does hope
added
to
products is
yeah,
important.
value-added products. The CPRI does hope to offer a lot more courses in the coming months and years with regards to value-added products and just bringing back the skills that used to exist. So some of the skills that our grannies had that we have lost over time.
Stuffing by hand.
Yes,
And on sauce.
absolutely. I really want to thank both of you so much for taking the time out, and to all of our listeners as well for joining in with us. This has been a really special episode for World Youth Skills Day. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Shaquille.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Your
much, Jen.
perspectives have been very interesting. And I'd like to say thank you to all of you for joining in recognition of World Youth Skills Day 2020. If you missed any of this special edition of Wired's live living room session thus far, you can always watch the replay on either CPRI or Wired's Facebook page or on Wired's YouTube channel. We will be bringing you a live special edition to mark each of the UN World Days, amongst a few of our local celebratory days as well. And we look forward to seeing you next month for our next episode on August the 12th, when we are joined again by young people in celebration of World Youth Day, not World Youth Skills Day. It will be World Youth Day on August the 12th, and we look forward to seeing you then. Have a good evening.